Woo! Hello, everybody. If you celebrate, Merry Christmas. If you do not, Happy Holidays. I know that Hanukkah is going on, so Happy Hanukkah. I think Kwanzaa starts today, so Happy Kwanzaa. If you're any sort of pagan, Happy Yule. Uh, and and yeah, I just wanted to make a quick update because last night I got the privilege to watch. Sorry, update on my computer. I'm like, what is that? I got the privilege to watch on the American channel FX a new retelling of A Christmas Carol that apparently was, I guess, in partnership with BBC, and it also aired this year. I it was just this thing where we came home from Christmas Eve service. And I turned on the TV and I was like, I was thinking yesterday, early in the morning, I was going, well, we haven't watched any version of A Christmas Carol this year, which is incredibly unusual for my family because we love that tale. As the meme would suggest, I suppose, the funny meme was like, yes, the tale of where a very rich person has to be supernaturally terrorized into giving a shit about workers and regular people. Uh, but yeah, it's a really it's a tradition in my family to watch at least one version of it, if not more than one. So when we came home from Christmas Eve service and it was on FX and it literally just started, we were intrigued. My mom went home with us, but she went to bed early. Because again, she has Alzheimer's and she gets tired easy. She's almost 70 too, so I'm just kind of like, you do you. So my father and I stayed up to watch it. And it's probably just as good that it was just us because it was definitely a darker retelling of A Christmas Carol. What I've noticed is that a lot of people, it seems like in the initial searches I did, found that to be very off-putting. And for me, I'm biased. I mean, I'm sitting here wearing festive skulls and stuff, but that didn't bother me at all. It was a darker retelling because, my favorite version of A Christmas Carol, though, to give you an idea of how different, I can be, because, I have cute, fluffy, stuffed animals, but I'm wearing, skulls, is my favorite version is actually A Muppet Christmas Carol, the Jim Henson one, right? Before Disney got possession of all that, because it was back in the 90s when I was a kid. So I like very sweet things, cute things, but I also really enjoy things that are much more serious, introspective, grim sometimes. Yeah. So seeing this version on FX was refreshing. I want to say very quickly that if you go into it thinking that it's going to act more like a movie, you're wrong, because I know that it was titled, at least on our cable, that it was a movie, but I could tell pretty quickly that it was really more like a mini-series that they had put together in one long slot as a movie, which it didn't bother me at all, but just keep that in mind if you're watching it. You're like, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, what is this? Excuse me, all the good Christmas food, oh my goodness. But yeah, that's why. It's because it was originally a mini-series. I don't feel like it really interfered with the storytelling at all. In fact, I feel like that having it separated into different chapters was interesting considering that it was originally a piece of literature, which Dickens hated, by the way. Dickens hated the fact that The Christmas Carol was so damn popular. He did. It's kind of like how Tchaikovsky actually hated the fact that The Nutcracker was so popular, and he just, similar. It's pretty normal, I guess, that it seems like very famous people, their least favorite works are the ones the public adores. I'm seeing a pattern here. Anyway, what I also really enjoyed in this is that the spirits are more interwoven into the story than they even usually are. And I don't want to go too far into that because I feel like if I do so, it will be a spoiler. But just know that I appreciated how they did that. I appreciated the fact that it was very obvious that at least to me, when I saw this one character, I was like, and then I saw him again later, I'm like, I see you, bro. You'll know who I'm talking about because it happens pretty early on. Yeah, that the characters and their contact with the spirit world is much more, I feel like, consistently layered in this version. There's some really interesting interpretive choices that people went for. I may actually break down in the latter half of this and just quickly mention some of those because it's driving me up a wall not to be able to say anything about it because they were really interesting creative choices. Just know that when we're talking about spirits, this is not going to be like Um, ooh, super sparkly, fantastical, ooh, la la land spirit world. No, it's just gonna be like the spirits that are like, hey, you done up. And we're gonna see if we can rectify the situation. And one of the consistently interesting things is it's kind of like, well, what's in it for you as the spirit? What's in it for you? And at least one of them is like, well, I relish a challenge, which seems like a very nonsense. Like I can just feel people being like, oh, well, that's too simple of a reason. And I'd be like, no, actually, I mean, think about it. If you were a spirit and you were alive for like or you exist, okay, for a really long time, wouldn't you eventually become bored and relish a challenge too? So I feel like the characters that they chose for the spirits, like their personalities. I'm not going to spoil things. Just know that who some of the spirits end up being and how they're interpreted may really surprise you. It's a very interesting take on it. I loved it. In other words, you're not going to see like the ghost of Christmas Past is very similar to how he normally is, but he has a few more tricks up his sleeve than usual, and I really enjoyed that. It was very interesting. Oh, I want to say something, but I can't. A ghost of Christmas Present really shocked me as to who it was, because it was not the typical ghost of Christmas Present. I almost was like, ah, when I saw who it was. And Ghost of Christmas Future is very interesting. I like at first I was kind of like, oh, because I'm used to like the hooded version. Death, right? But I thought they did a really good job with how they decided to present that spirit as well in an artistic way. And again, I don't want to go as to who he looks like or anything, but just know that I thought it was a great choice. So there's also some definitely more mature themes, some of which I felt like were a bit over the top. However, I felt like they really went there as far as really questioning in the initial tale whether or not Scrooge could really be forgiven, by the people he had wronged. And I thought that was really great. There were also a lot of layers to this that surprised me that had to do, but I was actually kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. I was actually pleased to see it, which had to do with workers' rights and working and living conditions, which people act as if that's going to be some sort of social, I can just hear it. They're going to be like, oh, some social justice warrior shit. And I'll be like, no, bro, like, seriously, like, the original, because I'm going to assume it's a dude. Sorry, not sorry. Because I can just hear it from here. That it's going to be some kind of like, knee-jerk reaction to that. Oh, this is over the top in that way. No, that's not actually the thing I thought was over the top. That I appreciated because in the initial tale, yes, it's made abundantly clear that living and working conditions in Victorian England are disgusting, because they were. And people didn't live until like the average life expectancy, I may be wrong, I'm pretty sure it was 40. So even if you had money, it wasn't very long. That being said, I also appreciated the fact that Scrooge was younger a little bit in this. A lot of the characters were, and I appreciated that a lot because I felt like that was actually more realistic. It wasn't very often that people would live that long, even if you had money, because the environment you were living was so filthy, okay? You want to understand how filthy it is? Go watch this Amazon Prime video that was like a Victorian Christmas. And it's pretty interesting. It's like it's almost 3 hours, and these folks reenacting preparations for the final harvest, and then taking care of the animals, and then what you'd have to do on an estate to set everything up. So you're following these reenactors the whole time, and there's some stuff related to construction and different things that are very interesting that would really, you'd get a very quick idea of how polluted it would have been in the cities, even though they're on a rural estate that they're working as reenactors. Anyway, this was I really enjoyed this version because it went there more heavy hitting, not just in Scrooge's personal life, but in the business life that he had, which, again, I felt like they did that very well. And without getting too spoilery, just know there are some things in there that are implied. One of them is not implied, one of them is shown, which I thought that's the part where I was like, that's a bit much, but But it does illustrate how wicked a person he was at that particular part. You'll know when you get to it. But before then, when he was a child, something was heavily implied. And let's just say I was very pleased with how his sister decided to take care of it. Scrooge's sister decided to get involved in that situation when she brought him home. It was a good scene. Anyway, but yeah, there's so many things and so many events that they cover in the miniseries. Include one which I found personally scarring for like a number of reasons. Again, that's the one where I was like, ah! But again, it might be because of, just life experience. So just know that kind of thing, there's some things in it that are, I'm just going to go there. I'll say that there's maybe some things that they're going to be sexual in nature that happen near the end, that it's heavily implied throughout, so you kind of know it's coming. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it was still heinous. Okay? And again, I felt like all that layered with all of his business dealings and all these things that he did really did drive home how proper the ending was. And I don't want to spoil the ending because it does stay true, I think, very much to the initial spirit, no pun intended, of A Christmas Carol, because it does. But I also appreciate that it went there, again, like I said earlier in this video, it went there and it said, I don't know, can somebody like this really be forgiven by the people in his life? And if they don't forgive him, is he still going to be a good enough person that he understands that they have that right not to forgive him? And I felt that was a very powerful message, because it means that you are willing to admit your wrongs, try and rectify your mistakes with nothing in return. Where I feel like the other versions of A Christmas Carol, it's kind of like, oh, everything's fine now, la 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 la, which I still like that version. But I felt like this version was very much more realistic in a lot of ways, so I liked that. The final scene was, yeah, I loved that. Let's just say that this movie really does drive home the idea, or this miniseries does drive home the idea of forcing you as the viewer also to examine your own life, which can be pretty uncomfortable at times, but especially near the end, okay? There's really this thing where it's kind of like, are the Christmas spirits still, is their job done just because Scrooge was helped? Or is there more work to do? And that speaks to you as the viewer. So again, I feel like it's a very bold, dark, gritty, it's an interesting retelling of A Christmas Carol. And if you gloss over it simply because I don't know, that you're just like, oh, I don't want to see something that's not festive. It's like, no, look, okay, some of the reality check, I go to church down in one of the older parts of Las Vegas, okay, and people are on the streets. People have horrible things happen to them every day, okay? People lose everything, like, in an instant. Sometimes not even because they did anything wrong, right? And I feel like to just ignore a retelling of this story in particular, because it might actually address those issues, is kind of sad on your part, because it feels like to me that you actually don't understand the Christmas spirit, which is actually helping those that are less fortunate than you, and hopefully carrying that spirit through every single day of the year, which is exactly what Scrooge learns he must do in this miniseries and in a lot of, all the other retellings of that story. So, I'm not saying that if you find certain topics that I just covered triggering, and I'm not saying that no, I'm being like serious, like if they bother you, because there was one that bothered me, I don't understand your situation, but yeah, it's understandable as to why you wouldn't want to watch it, okay? But yeah, it's dark, it's gritty, it's, in my opinion, good. It felt a little slow in places, but I appreciated it. So that's FX's mini-series, also I guess in partnership. Again, I don't know exactly the nature of that partnership. I just know it was also airing on BBC. Um, yeah, A Christmas Carol. It was trippy. Again, I really loved the way they wove the spirits into that story. I don't want to spoil it for you. Just go watch it. Find a way to watch it, darn it, and then talk about it so FX knows that maybe you want more things like that in the future. Me being that I was a goth in high school, and I'm really excited to have like a gothic literature piece that my friend brought home from, I think, Waterstones in Glasgow when they were graduating from university. Yeah, I'm a bit biased. So I am more used to these kinds of interpretations or atmospheric representations of different types of stories, or just stories in general that have this sort of more grimness to them, or mystery, or kind of supernatural. I don't know. I don't want to call it like a doom, but it's more like that kind of gloom that you can feel. So I do like those sorts of things. If you don't like those sorts of things, you probably will not enjoy this. Um, I definitely would say that if you're a Tim Burton fan, and you don't mind things that are a little bit darker or more, I don't want to say thought provoking, but just like more introspective, like you're gonna have to think about the relationships between the spirits and the people that are on the periphery of Scrooge's life and the people that are nearest to him and all that kind of stuff. Then yes, you should probably give this a chance. It's good. Sit down with like a hot toddy or um, some coffee or tea or glögg or something, cider, and just apple cider, hard apple cider, something like that, and just enjoy it. Okay. It's definitely a trip. So I'm done gushing about it. Again, if you celebrate, Merry Christmas. If you do not, I guess late Happy Hanukkah. I think it starts today. Again, if I'm wrong, I apologize. Happy Kwanzaa. For those of you that are pagan, Happy Yule. And like actually this last week, the weekend before last, I went to I graduated actually with my master's degree. And when I was in town, we went with my great aunt to the Scandi Lodge, so the Scandinavian Lodge, and I got to witness Santa Lucia for the first time. We were there for a smorgasbord, and I tried to learn how to say God Jul, but I'm not sure I'm saying it right, which is another way of saying Merry Christmas. It's kind of like if you were trying to say Joyeux Noël or Bon Natale or Feliz Navidad, right? So whatever you celebrate, I wish you well, and I'll be updating soon, okay? So take care as you're able. This is Kelly at Eclectic Entries, signing off.